what's fascinating to me is that this is fundamental change in the entire geopolitical landscape of the Middle East, and it's like I'm really impressed with how Iran is handling itself, because it's such a juggernaut that they're fighting, and that they've done. I feel like if it was a game of chess, they are down a queen at the start, and they are pinning the king. They're pinning the opposing king. So like I want to just like discuss a few things. The first kind of idea that I like want to talk about is like there's this attack, right, that happens, and Khomeini dies. And are you familiar with Khomeini at all? Like what he means to the people?
So from my news sources, 20% of the population wanted him in there, and that he's been there since the 70s.
Yeah.
So that's basically all I've been told.
Gotcha. Yeah. So this is, I believe that from the information that I'm seeing, there are like popular uprisings that are in favor of Khomeini right now. Like
Okay.
they're mourning in the streets. Are there people who loathed Khomeini? I think they're completely aware. But I think his death is like similar to killing the Pope for the Catholics. So imagine if this country, like this foreign nation, kills your Pope. You know what I'm saying? You'd be up in arms. That's such a visceral feeling. And so, and I think what's happening right now, I think the U.S. strategy was we decapitate the leader, and they'll naturally spring up a opposition that we can manipulate and turn into our puppet. But the exact opposite is happening, and I don't think it's by surprise. Or it is by surprise to the Americans, but like this was all accounted for by Iran. So the first thing is there's like a Shia uprising. Like as soon as Khomeini died, there has been riots and protests and people out in the streets in countries like Pakistan, Bahrain, Iraq, etc. Because he was such it's like the Catholic Pope dying. You know, you would have protests all around, right? So everyone has kind of generally disliked American colonial overhanded, the American colonial oppression that has been in the Middle East.
You get McDonald's though.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You do get McDonald's, but everyone has hated it, but they've just kind of been passively accepting it. And all these embassies around the country have been, or around the world within that region, have been like attacked because of this. So the response so Khomeini dying has created this like kind of visceral response, and it's like, have you heard of like burn the boats as a concept? So this is the situation Iran is in, and it's such a crazy situation because their response has been to not just attack Israel and not just attack the United States. It's been to attack it has been to attack the United States, but literally every single base. So they're attacking Oman, or no, the only country they're not attacking is Oman, but they're attacking Kuwait, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, as well as Qatar.
Was this an attack down the street, do you think?
No, I don't believe that.
Okay.
I think that's a psyop.
Yeah, it could be.
I think it's such a dumb. What Muslim have you ever seen wear property of Allah?
True.
And he's Senegalese, and that's a Sunni population, and this is Shia. The Khomeini who died is Catholic. It's the difference between Catholic and Protestant.
Do you think they do that for the people who are in the know, to fuck with them? Like we're gonna tell them it's this, but you know it's not.
I think it's a full psyop.
Okay.
I think it's if it's connected at all. I mean, it's just like, oh, we just bombed them, and then now, this happened.
Yes.
See.
Yeah.
So I don't buy into that at all. But what I'm really interested in is the strategy that Iran is employing, which is they've attacked every single base, and it's such the asymmetric warfare that's happening is I don't see how the United States can win, because they have superior firepower. Like the United States and Israel obviously have superior firepower, but the game is so the math is so not in favor of the United States, because every time Iran launches a missile, the United States has the capacity to defend it, which is the missiles that we were talking about, the Patriot missiles and the THAAD.
That are millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars, right? So each time Iran fires a missile, they have to shoot at least 2 interceptors. Each interceptor is at least $1 million, and it can be as much as $12 million. The thing is, the missiles that Iran is shooting can range from anywhere from $40,000 to several $100,000. So it's like a order of magnitude more expensive to defend against what Iran is throwing at them. And then Iran is one of the premier missile making countries. They know what they're doing when it comes to designing missiles. They're on like the forefront of it.
So these aren't Chinese missiles like people are claiming.
No. They build their own missiles.
Okay.
They have underground missile factories.
Yeah.
They call them missile cities. They have tunnels upon tunnels upon tunnels that nobody knows except them. That have different entrances and exit points. So like even if you like bomb like the entry point, they'll just excavate it and then get out of it. You know what I'm saying? So America's hope is that the United States is hoping to destroy the missile launchers. You know what I'm saying? Because if you destroy the missile launcher, it doesn't matter how many missiles you have, you can't launch them. But Iran has made it so that they can launch these missiles from pickup trucks. That's how. So like, it's a game of cat and mouse that the cat can never win. And and now what the places that Iran is bombing, it bombed a CIA headquarters. It bombed
a hotel, the Fairmont.
Yeah, they knew. So they have good intelligence, which most people think they got it from the Chinese. There was like all these airplanes that came in from China, turned off their transponder, and then went into Irani airspace, and then came out back to China. So like obviously they're depositing a bunch of military equipment, intelligence. We don't know what the Chinese gave them, but Iran has been preparing for this war for decades, at least 20 years, if not 40, 50 years. So they're not, and it's exactly this. This is the end game. And so what Iran has been attacking has been super strategic. So like they just blew up, it was confirmed blown up.
The naval base?
The naval base is really interesting too. So they blew up the naval base in Bahrain. And what that means is that, so America right now has one carrier out there, and the carrier has also retreated. And when a carrier has a bunch of offensive missiles and defensive missiles, so the interceptors are the defensive missiles, and then they also have offensive missiles. But once you're done shooting those missiles, you have to reload. You have to restock the ship. It's not like it just exists on the ship. So you have to dock. And the only place to dock in that area is in Bahrain. So they already destroyed the port that they would have used to dock. So now if they want to restock that ship, that carrier, they have to go all the way to, I think the port's name is Diego Garcia, which I don't know if you could look up. I don't know exactly where that is.
Spain?
No. So Spain is an interesting position. Spain's the first country that said you can't use our naval bases. I don't know if you heard about that.
No.
So where is that?
Yeah.
So it's in the archipelago of the Indian Ocean. So like if you pull up the map, if I'm not mistaken, it would take several days to go to Diego Garcia and get back to
Come on.
to the Gulf Theater.
Where's this at?
Wow, that's where they would have to go. And then, so they would have to go all the way back to reload and then go back into action. So, or the other option I think is Djibouti on the African Horn. So, what that means is that like they can't reload the carrier. So they've like paralyzed the American carrier to a certain extent. They've also bombed all of the radars. Not all of them. I don't know how many are left. But like it's confirmed that they've bombed one of the most important like radar systems that the United States has, and I believe I believe it was in Qatar.
Qatar.
And so what that means is that that radar system gives you situational awareness of the entire battleground.
Right.
So like they can detect, a missile was just launched hundreds of miles away. I'm making up the numbers, but because that's destroyed, it reduces the vision that the United States has of the chessboard.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Essentially, they pierce the eyes of the United States. Now, they didn't do that just with one radar system. I believe they've done that with several radar systems. So that's one of the strategies. The other thing that they've done is they've bombed the fuck out of Bahrain. So Bahrain is interesting politically because it was once part of the Persian Empire. And most of the people that live in Bahrain are Shia, which is the Catholic. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's the same religion that is who Khomeini was the Pope of.
It's Shia. What's the other side?
Sunni.
Sunni.
Yeah, and there's also Wahhabism. So Bahrain is led by a Sunni dictator, and the population is almost entirely Shia. And so the population is on the side of Iran. I mean, emotionally, why wouldn't you be on the side of Iran? You have the Jews and the Americans attacking your people. You know what I'm saying? So, and they've been kind of suppressed by the dictator with the help of like the Saudi dictatorship, right? So Bahrain is an island that's connected to, if I'm not mistaken, it's an island, but it's connected to Saudi Arabia, and so. So there was like the Saudis were sending reinforcement troops to make sure, because they were attacking the U.S. embassy and so on. The people were openly starting to revolt, and so to send they started sending backup to Bahrain from the Saudis did, because they all have a vested interest, because it's just like tribal families that control all of these countries. You know what I'm saying? It's the House of Saud that controls Saudi Arabia. That's what it's called that. And so like. So the Saudis were sending backup reinforcement, but then Iran bombed the highway that connects Bahrain to Saudi Arabia. In other words, to isolate Bahrain, potentially, it hasn't happened yet, but I think the game plan is we can kind of create the uprising. In other words, destabilize and then overthrow the Sunni regime, so that we can further control that area.
Yeah, let them eat themselves.
Exactly. Well, not so much eat themselves as in like reduce the control that the Gulf states have of their own region. Because the Gulf states are all complicit in this. You know what I'm saying? Because the Gulf states are in a really tough position, because they've allowed their countries to be used as bases by the United States. So all of these countries, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, all have bases that are all pointing weapons at Iran. That's what they're there for. And the implicit agreement is that we'll let you build these bases, you protect us. But the United States is not protecting them. In fact, I believe it was Qatar, or it could have been the UAE, bought $2 billion of these interceptor missiles. They're going to run dry in the next week. You know what I'm saying? And after they run dry, they have nothing to protect themselves from the barrage of missiles that are going to come from Iran. And so I don't know, from everything I've read, I don't know. One, the United States is coming into this with almost no game plan. They only thought this through to the extent that we are going to decapitate, and then, we'll get a regime that is favorable to us. So, and that hasn't happened. So this notion that like, everyone hates the Ayatollah and everyone wants an uprising in Iran, it's just like patently untrue based on how things are, because it was beheaded, it was decapitated. They killed like the top 30 leaders or something like that, and there is no uprising. In fact, I think if you look at it emotionally, in the same way that after 9/11 happened, before 9/11 happened, George Bush was like, he had just won this contested election that most people didn't believe. He had like a very split vote. But after your country gets attacked, everyone rallied around George Bush and was like, hey, we're Americans.
Right.
So the same thing is happening in Iran. And the notion that there was this like such the upheaval and discontent, to a certain degree there was probably, but like after a foreign country bombs you, you don't like, no, we have to like, rally together and protect
I found
ourselves.
that weird, where it's just like women are burning their burqas because we bombed them and they're free now.
Yeah, it's bullshit. This is the propaganda to further justify the regime change operation that they're attempting to do. So so the Shia uprising I discussed, the Strait of Hormuz, I'm sure you're familiar with, which is this choke point of like 20% of the world's energy flows through the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran can disrupt it. In fact, has disrupted. Nothing's moving through the Strait of Hormuz right now, which it immediately impacts the Asian economies, the European economies especially. The United States has a lot of its own kind of energy resources, so it doesn't affect us as much, but it still does. But it collapses the Gulf states. So Iran's calculus. We're not even getting to Israel yet. Iran's calculus is that we're going to make this so fucking painful for everyone involved that eventually you're just going to have to stop. And I think, from my understanding, Iran's goal is we're going to inflict, because, you know, Iran's been attacked again and again. They keep shooting missiles. They keep beheading scientists and bombing embassies. And Iran has played it very safe. And now this is an existential threat. In other words, burn the boats. They're up against the wall. They have no choice if they don't fight back viciously, that they're gonna descend into what Iraq and Syria and Libya, you know. And so what they're doing is right now, the way they're affecting the Strait of Hormuz is they've essentially blocked the ability for anybody to move their ships through it, right? But what they also, this is just the beginning, because this can be overridden if it's like an on and off switch. If Iran says, okay, you can use the Strait of Hormuz, it'll take about a month to ramp up production again, but within a month, it'll go back to pre-war levels. But if there's another game happening, is if it keeps climbing up the escalation ladder, in other words, let's say Iran feels even more threatened and might not make it, they can easily bomb these oil production sites. And if they bomb them, then it's over. Like you can't just turn it on again. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what if the Americans are doing it because it hurts China, and then we just get our oil from Venezuela and Texas? You know what I mean? So it's like, let me hurt my big opponent before it actually happens. And China thinks it's fighting a proxy war through Iran to attack it, but really it's just like, we want to deplete your missiles and we want your oil to be cut off.
Yeah, but the problem is this hurts the United States way more than it hurts China.
Okay.
So like China has other alternatives to. China does get a lot of its oil from Iran, but it can divert its resources and get it from elsewhere. This destroys America's entire power node that exists in the Middle East, because the petrodollar, like a lot of all of the trade that happens through the Gulf states is based in the U.S. dollar,
right?
Which is what gives the American dollar so much value. If Iran continues this and destroys the ability to procure natural gas and oil from those areas, it's gonna hurt, because all that money that's made is then reinvested into the American economy. So it would hurt. The imbalance doesn't make sense. It would hurt the United States much more. So it feels more like a strategic mistake, which we'll get to in a second. Is like, why would the United States do this? But the other idea is like so like the ace in the pocket. We don't know all of the strategies Iran has, but the other ace in the pocket is they could blow up the oil field. And if they blow up the oil fields, it's like mutual destruction,
right?
For both all the countries in that area as well as Iran.
Didn't they do that in Iraq too? They burnt the oil fields.
I think so. I don't know exactly how the Iraq wars went, but yeah, I think that's what I remember seeing the images of those. But the other thing they can do is make the Gulf states completely unlivable, because the water consumption that happens in these states, there's no water that clean drinking water that those Gulf countries get naturally. So they use desalination plants that it's like trivial to destroy, because you just need one drone, you know, and Iran has thousands upon thousands of drones in these missile cities. You need one drone or one missile to destroy it. So like if it gets to that, Iran is essentially showing and materially showing now, not just talk, that we could wipe you out. And so that's true for all of this. Like, so all of a sudden, all of these countries that were kind of built on the strength of the United States are looking incredibly weak because one, they're like a tiny dictator that rules over a people. Largely who don't want to be ruled by these dictators, but if they lose their access to their power, which is they're essentially gas stations, they're glorified gas stations, these countries.
That's a good way to put it. Wow.
And so if you bomb their gas station, what are they going to do? They have nothing else.
They're going to sell Funyuns.
Yeah, it's a Funyun-based economy. Yeah. The other thing is Dubai is a very interesting situation. It's the Dubai airport is I believe completely shut down, or at least it was a little bit ago. It's maybe slightly open now, but Dubai is like an economic. It's like an economic center. You know what I'm saying? So they make a lot of money through embezzling funds and blah blah blah, but also just moving money around. And I don't know exactly how their finances work, but it is a capital center. Now the thing with Dubai is that it has no flag and it has no allegiance amongst the people. They're largely foreigners that are only there because it's safe. You know what I'm saying?
Taxes too, or something
yeah,
like that.
Yeah, it's tax free. So these people are there because they don't, for money reasons. You know what I'm saying? And it's safe, and it's a safe place to.
It's the Puerto Rico over there.
Yeah, exactly. So now all of a sudden you make it unsafe, which is what the situation is now. It renders that country, that city, that entire economic node completely useless. And they're already feeling it. You can't, right now, you can't show any video. There is a complete media blackout in all of these countries right now. So that's why all you see is AI slop, is because if you even mention what's happening in these cities like Dubai and Tel Aviv, I know Dubai specifically, if you say something about what's happening that's negative, it's a minimum 1 year in prison. And so like nobody's saying anything, but like you wouldn't want to live there. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're there simply for financial reasons. You have no allegiance to this.
Well, I mean, if
city.
they paid me to do some comedy, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. But then all of a sudden it's dangerous. You're like, I'm not.
I gotta get paid a lot more.
Yeah, for sure. You're a man of money, dog. So that's the situation in the Gulf states. And so how do you come back from that? I don't know if there's a way for the United States to rebuild the trust that they had with the Gulf states, because the Gulf states were just bombed because they let America build on their land. And they thought, okay, we're going to let them build. America's going to protect us. But now America's not. In fact, America has redirected a lot of their missiles and they moved it to Israel to help Israel instead. In other words, they've treated all of these other states, these Gulf states, as pawns. They're the front lines. They're getting barrage, and America's not giving them the defense that they were expecting when they signed this agreement that you can use our bases to attack Iran. You know what I'm saying?
Because what are they going to do?
Who?
Those countries. There's no like, oh, you're going to take away our stuff. Well, we're going to do this. There's nothing.
There's nothing they can do.
Nothing.
There's absolutely nothing they can do.
No.
And so now they're in this really precarious situation. So like, just to fast forward, let's say this war ends. Is Saudi Arabia gonna want to have bases on their country when they know they got bombed because they let bases appear? They're probably not. So this is going to be the deterioration. It's going to totally rewrite the geopolitical landscape of that region because previously, all these countries were complicit with the United States because under the assumption that they would have the security that the United States provided. But now they're realizing rather than security, they're putting targets on their back by aiding the United States.
So do they join China and Russia?
This is interesting. The calculus from what I heard it would be to realign with Russia and China. I believe that like MBS and Putin just had a conversation. But obviously they're going to be talking about this. Nobody knows what they exactly talked about. But like, yeah, I mean, if you were Saudi Arabia, you're like, okay, so the United States just left us high and dry. We're getting bombed by Iran, and the United States is not helping us. So how do I keep my power in this situation? In fact, the United States got us in this mess, you know? And so that's the situation in the Gulf states, which is, I think, the most important situation. The other element to this is why, the question of, let's see. We talked about the THAAD missiles, the radar destruction. Um, so what's really interesting is how is Iran capable of doing this? Um, didn't we decapitate them? Why didn't it just fall? And this is like an interesting question because one, America always had air superiority. That was like a given. You know what I'm saying? They're just gonna bomb the fuck out of you. That's what they're known to do. What Iran has been uh, it, preparing for since 2005, when Dick Cheney suggested they might go into Iran, is how do you fight against this situation where you're going to get bombed from all over, and they're gonna try to kill the head leaders. They have because what's really interesting is 30 minutes after Iran, the Ayatollah was decapitated, and the top 40 people beneath them were also killed. 30 minutes after that, Iran attacked. So like there was almost no time between losing your central figure and them having a response to that, which means this has all been planned for. Like it's all been game theory.
Yeah, once they cut them off the SWIFT system and their banks collapsed, I think they'd been planning that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so
I think we're the ones that also cut off their internet.
Oh, you think so? Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. What I do know is that there have been a lot of like electronic warfare that's obviously happening. And previously, Iran was using GPS, and very recently they switched to Baidu, the Chinese geo. What does GPS stand for? Whatever it stands for, the Chinese version of GPS, because it was all being hacked by Israel and the United States. So
yeah, they all got backdoors.
Yeah, exactly. So the question is, how did Iran get so? How did Iran so effectively respond when they were attacked in a way that would seem otherwise lethal for a country? And the way Iran mapped this out or planned this out is what I think is known as the mosaic defense. So like Iran doesn't need, or their system doesn't need a top-down leader. They've broken it into like 20 different regions who have their own, who don't need to respond to Tehran to make decisions about how to attack. In other words, it's completely decentralized how they're attacking. They're probably, once the head comes back, once Tehran figures out who the leaders are and so on, they obviously have a top-down communication as well. But they also have the ability to like, hey, if you don't hear anything from Tehran for a month, you still know that this is your region. This is what you're going to be doing in terms of attacking. And so that's what makes the United States goals so spurious, is like, how do you fight against that? And nobody I've listened to says they have like a real plan.
What if the plan is to not have a plan, meaning like you just cause the chaos like in Jalisco, and then over there, world's burning, now I can print a lot more money, and then I can just default on all my shit because it's like, I printed too much money, all of y'all are fucked.
But the thing is, this hurts the United States more than it helps. This situation is so bad for the United States because the Middle East is their central kind of node of power. You know what I'm saying? Along with China a little bit, they've created some perimeter around China. This is the other interesting thing is the number of missiles that the interceptor missiles. We already talked about how it costs like $1 million for each of these missiles. That's how much it costs. It costs about $1 million to make one of these missiles, and they shoot anywhere from 2 to 6 of these missiles for a single missile that's coming down on them. Iran makes these missiles for $30,000-$40,000, so it's like the math completely doesn't make sense, but also the production doesn't make sense. The United States is already in a deficit in terms of how much missiles it's using and giving away versus how much it can produce. So
gave a lot to Ukraine.
They ran their missile what's it called, their missile reserves dry, giving it all of this to Ukraine, and then they also have all these other kind of regions that they are protecting. For example, they're creating this containment perimeter around China. that requires X number of missiles. You know what I'm saying? And so they're running low on missiles already, and it's only been several days. This is by like everyone is saying this. Marco Rubio even kind of admitted this, and now they're like that. You know, Marco Rubio said like, we can't keep up with the number. They have so many missiles, and we only have this many missiles. We need to. This is why we need to attack them. That was Marco Rubio's
Get it
statement.
done quick.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we can't go for a long fight.
Exactly. And then Trump came in the next day and was like, no, we actually
got
have
all the
unlimited.
missiles.
We have unlimited missiles, is what he said.
I got 5 missiles behind me.
Yeah. But the thing is, you can look at exactly, because the Department of Defense or Department of War prints out how much money they're spending on whatever missiles. So like they did the math. I like watched this guy who was like an ex-military general. Is like, you can look at, this is how many missiles, this is how much money we spend on missiles. This is how many we can possibly make per year. So we can make about 700 missiles a year, the interceptor missiles. We're going to use 700 in the next week. You know what I'm saying? So we've depleted entire production capability in a year in 1 week. And so now there's already movement, like in order to reinforce the Gulf theater, they're moving the interceptor missiles and other ammunition that they have from the Chinese front over to the Gulf theater, which is like everyone's watching what's happening. You know what I'm saying? So China sees that, one, it's incredibly easy to cripple American bases. You know what I'm saying?
Taiwan's open now.
Taiwan's wide open. It's not. It would be trivial for China to attack Taiwan now compared to 5 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And so this is why I think this notion that it's like, spreading chaos is going to be beneficial to the United States, it doesn't make sense.
Not beneficial, but it's like, all right, I spent too much money. I can't afford my beach house, my condo over there, which are all the bases.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, fucking do it. I don't give a shit. Fucking let me try something crazy because I'm probably going to lose it.
Right, but that's not the strategy for long-term success in...
Trump wants his success.
But Trump is under so much fire because this. So the thing becomes, why did we get into this war when, by all accounts, it seems like a really bad decision for the United States? And the reason that everyone's pointing to is because it wasn't the decision of the United States to get into war; it was the decision of Israel. And so, like, why does Israel want this war? Well, Israel, what do you think? Why do you think Israel wants this war?
To get rid of any opposition around them. They're too close.
Yeah.
Got to get rid of them.
Yeah.
But also there's the biblical part where people want the prophecy to come true.
Sure.
And so you have those who are looking at it as in, I can have this great beachfront property in Gaza. I don't have to worry about them bombing me.
Yeah.
And it's going to be nice. And the other side is like, no, this was written thousands of years ago. And we have to do this.
Yeah. It's a mix of both. I would probably agree. So I think the fundamental idea is Israel wants hegemony over the region. It wants to be the only node of power in that entire area. Now, there's also the idea of Greater Israel. Have you heard of that?
No.
Israel has this plan called Greater Israel, which is that Israel is not just limited to its current territorial boundaries, but in fact, it goes up into Syria, up in Lebanon. It wants all of those territories and all the way to the Euphrates in Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. So there's this map of Israel. In fact, a lot of IDF soldiers wear the map of Greater Israel, which is on their uniform, which is takes up the land of like 7 of their neighbors. That's what they think is what Israel is supposed to be, the size. And so the only thing holding them back from that right now is Iran. There's no other power that is even worth confronting for Israel. They're completely at the behest of Israel. So that's what they want to take off. That's why they want to take on Iran, and they believe that Iran is also getting to this kind of tipping point where it will be untouchable. It is their missile program is one of the best in the world, and it continuously is building. It's been building. It's like a fortress, you know. And it's a fortress. I mean, the geographical strategy the geographical setup that Iran is blessed with is just mountains that block it from every angle. And so so that's what Israel wants. So how could it convince the United States to go into a war that benefits the United States? Not at all. In fact, it completely hurts the United States because, as we just talked about, the Gulf states, which are kind of what props the U.S. dollar in many ways, the petrodollar, is going to be destroyed by this. Well, it's because Israel controls the United States, and I think that's like pretty obvious to anyone who's watching. This is where Epstein files come into play. This is where AIPAC comes into play. This is where theories of blackmail against Donald Trump come into play, which is like, why would Trump, who is incredibly perceptive about public opinion, recognizes that nobody wants another endless war, platformed on this notion of nobody wants endless wars, and then still goes into a war that he knows that nobody wants and he himself did not want. Well, it seems like the notion is that there's probably some blackmail that Israel has on Donald Trump, maybe related to the Epstein files. We know that Epstein is obviously connected to the IDF at this point. Are you familiar with that?
I've heard.
You've heard, yeah. Now this is your forte. Yeah. And so this is the theory, but nobody quite knows why you would do this. You know what I'm saying? And this is even further muddled by the fact that you can't get a straight answer of what the game plan is, what the end game is for the United States in this situation. Why are we bombing them? Oh, they want nuclear weapons. Well, you were in the middle of negotiations, and they've agreed to not have nuclear weapons.
Maybe the people who are not only being blackmailed, maybe it's half blackmail, and the other half is like, I'm going to make so much money off of this shit. You know what I mean?
It could be, but I would like to see, because they're losing money. I mean, if you destroy the Gulf, if you create tension and chaos through your primary revenue stream, I don't want to say primary revenue stream, but like the revenue stream that the United States effectively controls, which is all the oil that's coming out of the Middle East, you control that because it's denominated in the U.S. dollar. And now you've sowed discord and distrust in American responsibility as the wielder of that power.
Yeah.
So it's like, it doesn't really, sowing chaos is effective if you're not the one holding the power.
I think it was, I forgot what country it was there, but they already stopped selling their oil in dollars. They started doing it in yen in 2024, I believe.
In the Gulf states?
In the Gulf states. And I don't know if it was Saudi Arabia, who it was.
I'm almost positive they're not.
Let me look it up.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia does it in
has
yen?
been in discussion to price some of its oil in Chinese yen rather than the U.S. dollar. This is
but I think
2024. So that's what I was thinking. Like maybe
I think it sounds like that there's a potential to move away, but like it doesn't sound like it is. It's still in the U.S. dollar.
Yeah, I guess just the United States saying we're in talks, losing power.
Yeah.
Fuck it, roll the dice.
Yeah, I mean maybe that feels. I mean it just feels so foolish. I mean from everyone I've listened to, it's just
we're
such
a foolish country.
Yeah, we are a foolish country. I mean this is the dying throes of an empire.
The Roman Empire stretched out too far, and then it has to come back in.
So
maybe we get Greenland out of it. I don't know.
Yeah, but this is the thing: is you're depleting your resources. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Greenland has a lot of resources.
No, your military might.
Oh yeah.
So like, with what power are you gonna take on Greenland? Obviously, Greenland's way easier to take on, but there's a lot of countries that would step up to defend Greenland.
Instead of policing the whole world, you just police the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I think that's like a very big retreat in power. You know what I'm saying?
It's gonna
be. I don't know. Maybe that's what's happening. I just think it's more likely that what this indicates is that the United States is completely under parasitic control of Israel. And Israel directly benefits from this situation. America benefits not at all from this situation. And because Israel benefits and controls our country almost at every level of the chain, they can force, they can coerce the United States to behave against their interests. You know what it reminds me of? Have you seen those ants that like get plagued with
Fungus.
a fungus?
Yeah, and they turn to zombies.
They turn into zombies, and then they just move against. They like climb up to the highest tree while the rest of the ants are working, and then once they get to the highest point, the fucking fungal thing grows. They like die, and then the spores release, and then infect the other plants.
Yeah.
Like it mind controls the ant because it begins to move like not where it's supposed to. This is what I think is happening with the United States: is that Jewish control, Zionist control, has completely occupied all of the levers of the United States, so that the United States is no longer behaving in its own interest and is behaving entirely in the interest of this rogue state.
Yeah.
I
I like to separate Zionists and Jews just because it's fun. No, because it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I like to say that like the people within the Catholic, I'm a Catholic.
Yeah.
Like those priests that molested kids.
Yeah.
To me, they're not Catholics.
Yeah.
So I would, from what I've, Twitter and stuff, a lot of Jewish people be like, well, I'm not a Zionist.
I understand that.
But I do believe in a bigger Israel.
It's a hard line. I don't know where the line begins
Not me,
and
I'm
ends.
saying they say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Because like when you criticize for the last 20 years, when you criticize Israel, you were called immediately an anti-Semite.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to get into all of that because it's there is a problem with any sort of criticism with this group was like, hey, you're against Jews, and so then it wasn't us that conflated the two. It was them that conflated any criticism of this power that has now is effectively destroying the United States and its reputation around the world is because of this particular group.
Yeah.
I guess you can call it Zionism. I just think there's a slippery line between the two, and I don't know where it begins and ends.
Well, it's a good mind fuck because it's the only conspiracy where I'm like, hey, so did you hear? And
Yeah.
then literally, you watch who you're around. Any other conspiracy, they're eating children. You know that? It's like you don't care because the programming, it's there. You know?
Yeah. The programming is what specifically?
The programming is the algorithm that I receive, the education I receive.
Yeah. But like, why do you feel like you have to whisper when you talk about this particular group?
The whole, the anti-Semite. Like somebody can call me, oh, you're a homophobe, you're racist. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
You're anti-Semite. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Why? Because you have these thoughts of like, what's the hell? And it's like, no. You can't think that way. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, so then it becomes the question of like, okay, so then why? That's all programming, right?
Yeah.
And that programming is defined by this original sin that the West is responsible for, which is, and so that's why it's very strange to me that you cannot question this one original sin.
That's how I know it's a psyop.
I agree because that's the thing that makes you not be able to question this obvious takeover that's happening by this one particular ethnic group. So, like, is it Zionism? I don't know. They've conflated the two in a way where it's like, why is it my responsibility that I have to be careful with my words when it was this group that has decimated our country? And so that our country doesn't defend itself. It, in fact, everything it does is for the benefit of this one other rogue state that is in the Middle East. You know what I'm saying? So obviously it's not all Jewish people, and I would never say that. But I think the Jewish population has a real problem in their hands, which is
they were uprising right before the attack happened.
Who, Israel?
Israel, they're uprising against
Yeah,
Netanyahu.
I mean, I think a lot. I don't know the statistics, but everything I've heard from that population is that they're very pro what is happening for the most part. They were against Netanyahu. I do agree with that,
Yeah.
but I think I've seen I've seen the population of Israel protest because they felt that their soldiers had the right to rape goys. You know what I'm saying?
It says it in a book.
I know, in the Talmud. But I don't necessarily want to go in that direction. I just think that I think the fact of the matter is that there is an obscene amount of Jewish control that is entirely for the benefit of not the United States, but for the benefit of this rogue country. So that's where we're at. I think my thought process on this is that I don't see a way that the United States and Israel can win. So we haven't really touched on this. From what I have heard, Israel is in really bad shape because they are suffering from the same situation of they're shooting $1 million missiles to fight against missiles that
Yeah, the
cost
dome's running out.
the dome is also running out, right? So a lot of these missiles are now getting through, and they're attacking relentlessly, from what I hear. Iran is now. How long that lasts and how effective it is, I don't know. Israel is also bloodthirsty and psychotic and can use the Samson option. Are you familiar with the Samson option? So Israel has nuclear weapons. Nobody knows that Israel has nuclear weapons, except everybody knows Israel has nuclear weapons.
Right.
In other words, every country in the world has to disclose and get their nuclear weapons checked by this non-government international agency. The only country that everyone knows has nuclear weapons but hasn't done this is Israel. Israel stole the nuclear weapons from the United States. That's how they procured these nuclear weapons.
Maybe the people that made it sent it to their friends.
Perhaps. Yeah, we don't know. But so, and this is the thing that John F. Kennedy, this is the pushback that JFK had against Israel, and then several months later he was shot in the head.
Right.
So and nobody quite knows who killed JFK, right? But now, so we know Israel, and this also makes the whole idea, the hypocrisy, the absolute hypocrisy that Iran should not have nuclear weapons or have them checked or whatever, when the country that is dictating that has nuclear weapons and nobody else is aware of it. This is what I mean by what is this Jewish supremacy that they get to run around and tell other countries how to behave and infiltrate other countries in these parasitic ways and then have no accountability to them. And if you criticize them, they'll bring up the Holocaust. You know what I'm saying? So the Samson option is a well understood option that Israel has game theoried out, that if Israel faces an existential threat, it will launch nukes at the top 50 countries around the world. Not like the top 50 cities around the world. Not just at Iran, not just at whoever's attacking them. It will launch it at New York City. It will launch it at Tokyo. It will launch it at Singapore, Beijing.
Well, Netanyahu said that. He goes, who knows? New York might be next.
Yeah. Did he say that recently?
He said that right after the bombing happened in Israel. And then a month later, or less than a month later, Trump took Barron out of New York City and moved him to the White House.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So that's the situation. And I this is the thing is, so the Samsung option exists, and that creates this really strange. I wonder what because Iran has obviously game theoried out all of this. You know what I'm saying? They're incredibly talented and smart, and so they've thought about okay, so then what do we do if this happens? I don't know what Iran's kind of strategy is for the fact that both of the people that they're fighting have nuclear weapons. You know what I'm saying? Now, the other thing is that this is why it's impossible for the U.S. and Israel to win in this situation, because they don't know what winning is. No country, people always point out that America has superior firepower and they can fly B-2 bombers and just wreak havoc all over
and
Iran.
a conspiracy that there's also a satellite that can shoot large laser beams.
Yeah, goy beams. That's what they're called. Yeah, I'm familiar. But the thing is, from what I understand, no country has been able to, with just air superiority, been able to topple a regime, right? So, I mean, Russia has air superiority over Ukraine. The other example is the United States over Iraq, and they weren't able to take control of the country without putting boots on the ground. The problem with putting boots on the ground is, again, it goes back to Iran's terrain. It would be so difficult because Iraq is 1/3 the size of Iran. Iran's a massive country. So the likelihood of it being effective, and also the United States is not prepared. Like it would take, from what I understand, it would take 6 to 9 months to get everything organized for them to launch an invasion with boots on the ground. And this is on top of the fact that they would be doing this in the middle of fire attack. You know what I'm saying? There's nowhere to, like, Iran is attacking them actively. So you bringing in soldiers while that's happening, it's a different idea versus Iraq, where it wasn't a hot war yet. So now you're bringing in all your troops and your everything that's required to get a successful invasion launched. You're doing this in the midst of drones and missiles firing at all of your bases in the region. So like that doesn't work. The other idea is like even air superiority doesn't work because like there's countless examples, like I mentioned with Ukraine, but also with Iraq. There's also like just a recent example less than a year ago where the Houthis were wreaking havoc on the Red Sea. Are you familiar with the Houthis? They occupy
I've
Yemen.
heard, but I'm not. I don't know
Yeah.
much
So
about 'em.
if you look at the map,
Yemen.
yeah. If you type in Yemen, so the Houthis control Yemen, which is the same kind of bottleneck that appears here or appears at the Strait of Hormuz, appears at the corner
Right here.
between the Horn of Africa and Yemen. Yeah, and so the Houthis are a militia that is armed by Iran and incredibly small. They were barraged by Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia tried to get them out of there, and then the United States went in there with several aircraft carriers. I don't know exactly how many, but they made a legitimate attempt for 2 months to get rid of the Houthis so that they could clear up, because so much of the trade happens through the Red Sea. It goes up.
You got to go all the way around Africa.
Exactly. And so like when the genocide was happening in Palestine, they were making it hell for the trade that was happening through the Red Sea. So the United States came in and bombed the fuck out of them. And after 2 months, they gave up. And this Yemen is 1/7 the size of Iran.
Yeah.
So if they were incapable of doing it with the Houthis, which is a much skimpier army, barely an army, one would not call it an army. They were incapable of slowing them down. The notion that they could stop Iran, which is full of mountains, rugged terrain, who have so many more missiles than the Houthis ever did, like the notion that they could slow down Iran, like you could descend it into chaos and just keep bombing them so that they can't, live a peaceful life and
instead of a nuke, just EMPs.
turn it into like what Ukraine is, which is like constant warfare. It becomes a battleground, but like the Iranians have so much leverage because they will in the same way that the Houthis were doing with the Red Sea, they're going to do that with the Strait of Hormuz and make it incapable for any of those countries to make money. And so then all of those countries are going to fall like dominoes. So that's the current situation. By the way, it's so commendable that Iran, and it has to be stated that Iran was the only country that did any sort of material effort or provided any sort of material backup to the Palestinians. They were the only ones via the Houthis, via Hezbollah. Nobody else gave any sort of support to the Palestinians as they were genocided, butchered by the...
Yeah, Egypt was like, fuck that.
Yeah. And they were completely being genocided by the Jews and or the Zionists, whatever you want to call them, so that they don't have their feelings hurt. But that's what they are. I mean, that's like, like nobody says like, hey, you should call them Germans. Or, hey, don't call them Germans. It was the Nazis who did it. It's like, yeah, but they're Germans.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like this kind of, this game of policing that happens only with this particular group. And I think it's just like stupid. I don't think the responsibility falls on me to, or I don't appreciate I'm not saying you specifically, but this kind of, hey, let me police your language so you don't hurt the feelings of this particular ethnic group, when this ethnic group or a large faction of this ethnic group is raining bombs and killing children all over the country or all over the world. You know what I'm saying? So this game of like, hey, you should be sensitive to how they feel. They might feel scared. It's like, I grew up Muslim in 9/11. Which, by the way, 9/11 wasn't done by me. It was done by the Israelis. That's like, a pretty compelling argument that they were the people who did that, and then blamed it on the Muslims, destroyed the reputation of Muslims for the last 3 decades, and then took advantage of it by destabilizing the entire region so that they could become the regional hegemon. So I have very little sympathy for that group. Yeah. And so, yeah, so I don't know where it goes from here. But it is, it's interesting. My hope is that America retreats. You know what I'm saying?
What's your 6-month prediction?
I don't think anybody knows. I would say, I think it is so contingent on how the next few weeks play out. This missile shortage is like the biggest kind of talk of the town right now. So it depends on, is it everything I said just bullshit? Do they have actually unlimited missiles or missiles to keep going forever? Because if they do, that changes the calculus. Yeah. Even if they did though, I still think that like it doesn't it doesn't change the fact of all these other strategic positions that Iran has, like the mosaic defense, so that like even if you chop their head off, they have all these regional areas that know how to operate their military. They have a lot of missiles, that's undeniable, and they'll continue shooting it all over.
Because they have to.
Yeah, so so even if America has a ton of interceptor missiles, it doesn't take a whole lot for the Iranians to bomb a desalination plant. Right. You know what I'm saying? Or to take a drone that costs 20. Those missiles defend like bases, you know what I'm saying, and radar systems and so on and so forth, and cities. But they can't defend every single part of the pipeline, you know what I'm saying? And so you take a $500 drone, you attach whatever detonation on it, and then you attack the pipelines. That's something that the Iranians can do. You know what I'm saying? So so really it comes down to how long do the interceptor missiles last, and then what is the way that Trump responds to that.
I think they last right up to midterm elections, and then they stop.
You think so?
Yeah, because they will get decimated, and then he's a lame duck president. He doesn't want that.
I think Trump has lost any hope of the midterm elections by starting this war.
He's so delusional. He really believes like, I'm gonna turn this shit around, and the stock market's gonna climb higher, and everybody's gonna have a home, and we're gonna like. I really truly believe he believes that. But also, you're a well-traveled person. I've lived 40 years in Texas. I've traveled a few places in the United States. I cannot help but to look at the world through American tinted glasses. Yeah. Even if I try to take it off, I can't. Yeah. Because I've been to Italy once. Right. Yeah. Siena's beautiful.
So beautiful. I love Italy. But yeah, I don't. It's really hard for me to make predictions. I'm kind of just like obsessed with the play-by-play of what's happening.
That's a healthier way to look at it too.
Yeah. Obviously I am rooting for Iran to survive. And this is my hope, is that the United States decides to retreat because missiles run out. It eventually realizes, there's too much domestic pressure at home or what have you. I don't think that's as much of an effect because he's been ruling like an authoritarian anyways. But I do think the military strategists and the generals will begin to kind of speak up about this more and more vocally, that this is like, we're just draining our coffers and our weapons, so that it leaves us completely exposed in all the other theaters that we have to care about, like the Asian, the South China Sea, and protecting our allies in Japan and Korea. So like, if that happens, the American retreat, one thing that is I'm fairly confident about is that the American dominance in that region will be evaporated because of the reasons I mentioned before, which is that all of those Gulf states will now see having American bases or helping America militarily is a liability, not an advantage. Right. And so what that suggests is that will also evaporate Israel's shield. Because Israel also relies, Israel is this like tiny nation that attacks because it knows that it can control the United States to do what it wants. Now, when all of a sudden, because Saudi Arabia and all these countries can't provide bases, and the radar systems that they blew up are billions of dollars. It's not like trivial. It would take years to rebuild those things. It's not like
Not even with like Elon Musk and satellites and like trying to.
I don't think so. I mean, the American military is like, it's showing a lot of weakness because military depends on production. And if you can't produce the things that are required in the way that China can produce and the way that Iran has shown to produce, because after the 12-day war that happened last year, Iran just started producing. I don't remember. We can look it up. How many missiles does Iran make a day?
It says 3 to 4 missiles a day, 100 per month, but that's according to Google AI.
How many missiles can Iran manufacture?
You know, it was crazy. You said a very reasonable statement earlier. I just hope Iran survives.
Yeah.
And for a split second, I know that's not what you said, but all I heard was like, "You want Iran to win?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Why did I think that?" You know what I mean? All
Yeah.
you said is survive.
Yeah.
And I was like, win? Why would you want them to win?
Yeah.
So that means the programming saying if they survive, that's them winning.
Yeah.
That's
I
crazy.
do. I do want Iran to win. Iran winning would be stabilizing the region.
Okay.
I think Israel winning would destabilize the region.
It would push us closer. Well, either both, I think, will destabilize. There's going to be chaos regardless.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think like Iran has shown prudence throughout this whole process. It has shown up to the negotiation tables every time and honored its side of the deals when it made a deal with Obama in 2015 or 2014 or whatever, the nuclear agreement that they agreed upon. It has done everything. It has voluntarily shown its nuclear programs to the IAEA or whatever the nuclear acronym is. It has not made nuclear weapons because the supreme leader said no to it and has committed to that. It has the capability. It can make nuclear weapons in days. That's what they admit to. Because they have already 60% enriched uranium, which is like what commercial nuclear programs are used for. You just need to get it to another level, which takes several days, maybe weeks to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they're working on now because they see an existential threat.
Right.
So the one I'm rooting for the one who's not the aggressor. So if it were the opposite, where Iran was attacking another country, I would be rooting for the country that's minding its own business. Iran is making missiles and bombs, but it's making it because it's been under constant threat from the West for the last half century. I don't know how familiar you are with Iran's history, but
the Shah, I don't know, was taken out or brought in. I can't remember. And then there was the Iran-Contra where they got him out of the what's it called? The helicopter came down at the consulate or whatever it's called. Yeah. So I mean, just stuff like that, little here and there.
For sure. So Iran was a democratically elected republic.
Yes.
Mossadegh was their leader.
And it was very the only way I can describe it is westernized.
Yeah, it was westernized.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the idea behind it was the reason it became tumultuous is because BP was plundering their land.
Mm-hmm.
It was raping them, just taking all of their oil, and Iran was making almost no money. In fact, BP was paying more in taxes to the United Kingdom because it's a UK company,
right,
than it was paying royalties for taking all the oil from. And so Iran was like, wait, can we see the books? This feels completely unfair. When they refused an audit, and when they refused an audit and there was pushback, there was public pushback because Mossadegh kind of ran on this, if I'm not mistaken. And so then they imprisoned Mossadegh, threw him out, and then installed the Shah, which is the monarch.
Right.
And the Shah lived this glitzy life in front of everyone as Iran was faltering. So then there was all this rebellion against it. Now the rebellion led to the Islamic Revolution. That's where the Ayatollah came into play. And so like this ties into kind of like you see the diaspora, the Iranian diaspora is so like um, fucking excited that Khomeini died, and I just think it is the most treacherous thing to be cheering on the fact that Israel and the United States are getting ready to bomb your people. I think it's so disgusting. I personally think that. And, you know, the argument is like we didn't have any freedoms and blah, 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 which I understand. But I also understand the position that the Islamic Republic has, which is you are a country under attack. You have these goblins that are trying to destroy your country nonstop for the last 50 years. You've been under sanctions, unjustified sanctions, right? Why are those sanctions there? They're there so that one, it weakens the authority, but also it humiliates and impoverishes the people so that they rise up.
Right.
So they are purposely from the external world creating situations so that they can overthrow them, not because they want freedom for these women. You know, it's such a. Do the women not have freedom? Yes, but it's times of war right now. You don't get to speak up when there's enemies, there's hordes at the gate. You know what I'm saying? You're not like, oh, well, how do you feel about how we're running things? It's like, no, shut the fuck up. We need to build missiles because they're going to come back in. And when they come back in, they're not going to let go. They're not going to just be like, you know what? Let this bitch dance on TikTok. That's not their goal. You know what I'm saying?
Let her read a book. Come on.
Yeah, let her read a book. By the way, Iranian women they have a higher percentage of doctors, engineers, scientists. It's like this notion is such bullshit of like Western freedoms is the ideal situation and we need to enforce it on everyone else. It's like the reason they can't have democracy is because when you open up a public discourse, what happens is that Mossad agents and all these people come in, destroy your country, infect your country, and then control it from within.
Yeah.
And that they don't want that. They want an independent nation. They want their own sovereignty. That's why China can't have it. That's why I understand Tiananmen Square and I understand the notion that you should be able to criticize the government because I'm doing that. I'm criticizing who I think controls our government, which is the Zionists. But I want those countries have to, if they let Tiananmen Square happen, like what is the end goal of that? Like if you let that happen, it metastasizes and eats up your whole country. You know what I'm saying? That's why I think like the United States has been in paralysis for the last like half century, and is you can't get anything done because it's beneficial to all the people who are infecting our government with paralysis, so that nothing can get done, and then we can just carve away and eat it like a carcass. You know what I'm saying? So
extract what you can from the falling empire.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what I was thinking. Is like, why would you do all this? These moves don't make sense. It makes sense if you want it to fail.
Yeah. I mean, but this is the thing is, I think, so who's doing it? And I think it's Israel. I do think that that's what's happening with the United States, but I think it's Israel primarily. I don't see any other winners. Like, I don't see Trump being a winner in this situation. I see Netanyahu being a winner. What if it plays out the way
what if he's not the winner, but what if he's the guy who gets to rebuild in his image? Like
rebuild what?
So let's say financial collapse, everything, worst comes worst, EMP, just chaos. And then he gets it back up and running and he rebuilds it, but the way he would want to rebuild America. That's what you get. You get to rebuild America in your image. Big old Trump America.
Yeah, maybe. I just don't. I think if you have something that's already structurally sound, there are better ways to add on top of it where you can take the name for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think like this is like a huge body blow to the American empire in a way that's like it's hard to. And what you're suggesting means that it has to fully crumble and then be rebuilt. I think whoever rebuilds it will come much later. I think Trump will get full responsibility for the destruction.
Yes, but in his mind, he's like, I can, because I forgot what it was when he was running, and he said, I forget it was the North Korean leader or the Chinese leader, that how their people just respect him and they snap and they do what they're
Yeah,
told.
he
And
loves
I'm like,
that shit.
so you're telling a guy who's already kingly in his head,
Yeah.
you can be king of America.
Yeah, potentially. I want to show you this. I disagree with that, but I could be totally wrong. I could be totally wrong about everything I said. These are
Oh
just,
yeah, me too. I have no
these
idea.
are just the
This is just what I'm getting fed off the algorithm.
yeah. But I've been making a good point to kind of do research on it rather than just
I always look at what the IMF is doing and Federal Reserve, and
yeah.
I always go to the banking. That's why I like watching CNBC.
What's your
Yeah.
email?
Joshua Dakabasa.
Joshua.
Because you get these politicians that go on these stock shows and they're no longer Republican or Democrat. They're just talking money.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, there you are. There you are.
Okay, I just sent this to you. Let's see if you got it. And it was such I had been listening to this nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
It will activate you. This is like, these are the war cries of the
There we go.
the Iranians. Is the audio up?
Yeah. The headphones right there. You.
آماده یک جنگ جهانی دنیا شده آماده یک جنگ جهانی فریاد شیاطین جهان خان یهودی بیرون زده از حنجره شاه سعودی بیرون
That's like a dope club, man.
Dog. This is a war cry. These are warriors.
Is this the one I've been seeing? Where they like slap their chest all in unison?
So I used to do that growing up.
Really?
I'm part of this. Yeah.
Okay.
This is the Shia.
Ah.
Might be why I feel so strongly about this.
Yeah.
But if you listen to the lyrics,
It's like a cooler TPUSA.
بین المللی می شود این ارث خمینی آرام و قرار همه کفر به هم خود بیداری اسلامی دنیا که رقم خود با ما سخن از جنگ مگو ما که نمردیم ما پاسختان را به دم تیغ سپردیم از منطق ما حذف شده واژه تسلیم در شام و عراق و یمن آماده جنگی در شام عراق و یمن آماده جنگی بر امر حاصل گبابیل ببارد بر قلب تلاوی که سجیل ببارد فردا که دم حیدری از کعبه براید فردا که دم حیدری از کعبه براید دوران معاوی صفتها به سرایت.
So yeah, that's there's other ones that are really good. Let me see if I can find one more.
So you used to do that, the thing where they slap their chest, and I was like,
Ya Hussein.
Yeah.
I used to do that. So like I'm not religious, but like all of the teachings that like I learned growing up in Islamic culture, specifically Shia culture, there's a dominant story, which is the story of Hussein, which is Imam Hussein is this is how long it's been since I was immersed in this, but like Imam Hussein is the grandson of Imam Ali, who is the nephew of the Prophet. So it's like the lineage of the Prophet. And he was in this situation where he was in the middle of the desert, somewhere in Iraq, what is modern-day Iraq, and the Caliphate, whose name was Yazid, blocked their caravan. And because there's like some sort of power situation, because he was the Caliphate, but obviously Hussein, being the lineage of the Prophet, also had some power. he wanted to get rid of him or something like that. And so what he did is like essentially blocked him from access to the river. And so they like not starved but thirsted to like just no access to water. And after 4 days in the desert, or 3 days in the desert, they begin to try to procure water by having to go through the military, their army, to get to the river. And so it was this like courageous battle because they had it wasn't a caravan of soldiers on Hussein's side. It was his wife, his children, his daughters. You know what I'm saying? And so then the men went to go fight to grab water for their families, and they were shot and murdered on their way they were martyred. You know what I'm saying? And so that is like the foundational story for the Shia ideology, which is you are defending your people and getting access to water, basic things. But there's this, villain at the gates who's committing injustice. And so that allegory, and not an allegory, it's like, I think it's like historically founded, is a true story, is the basis of Shia Islam. And that is exactly what's happening right now. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm not somebody who turns things into religious.
So just so I know, Shia Islam, is that like Catholicism, and then in Russia they have Orthodox?
Yeah, exactly.
So would Shia be Orthodox or Catholicism?
It would. It's hard to
Can I get that charger. The thing's gonna die.
It's hard to kind of articulate what it's most similar to because I don't know as much about Orthodox versus.
So Catholicism, saints pray to Mary. Orthodox, you don't pray to saints. That's like paganism.
Yeah, it might be closer to Catholicism, maybe. But it's a rough stretch.
Right.
It's more like
just for my context.
For sure. We worship. We don't worship, but we really hold in high regard the children of Ali,
right?
Who is the nephew of the Prophet.
Yeah, Catholics. Yeah. Mary. They pray. People
exactly
pray to Mary.
Exactly. And so, so this is the spirit of. So the whole mentality is like we will not like. Die under humiliation. It's like it's either death or humiliation, and we will not be humiliated. And so we'd rather die than be humiliated. And this is the situation. You see the way Iran has played this game has been with, I think, dignity. Despite the vilification of Iran on the global scene, I think that's all because of propaganda from the West, because they want to overtake Iran. But Iran is like a 4,000-year-old empire. You know what I'm saying? The Shia thing is relatively new to that, but like that's the spirit.
Is that hundreds or thousands of years old?
It is at the dawn of the Islamic revolution.
So about 1400.
Yeah, I don't know exactly when Muhammad came to be, but so
mine's easy, 0.
yeah. Well, we don't all get that. Well, we'll see how this war plays out.
Yeah.
We might have to rewrite the numbers a little bit. Yeah. Yours is -40 now.
Shit.
But yeah, so that's the situation. I'm like I'm just really and you feel that even in the Iranian defense of Palestine. You know what I'm saying? They don't need to defend Palestine. They're the ones in all of the Gulf states, if you speak up about Palestine, they'll silence you. You can't even protest about it. They'll immediately shut you up. And this is like where the Kaaba is, which is the center of where Islamic culture happens and stuff like that. But like those people are such cowards that like you see your fellow brothers and sisters, your Muslim brothers and sisters being annihilated. And not only are you not helping, you are in cahoots with those people, And then meanwhile, Iran, which is thousands of miles away. I don't know if it's thousands, hundreds of miles away. I have no sense of geography. But like it is hundreds of miles away. It doesn't need to care about that. It could just, say, words like, hey, we denounce it. But it's like actively making an effort. And I think there's something to be said about that, So I don't know where it goes. I think what my hope is that with the dissolution of American colonialism in that region, I think Iran will then apply pressure. Will reapply pressure so that like these countries that are totally incapacitated, like Syria and Jordan and Egypt, will if the United States falls in that region, I think there'll be a vacuum that I think Iran will assert itself in.
Not China, not Russia.
They will all. I mean, I think they are. This is the node of power in the world is moving to Asia. That's like undeniable. China is the like.
They got Africa for sure.
They got Africa for sure, but like if you think about like manufacturing as being the basis of all war, right? You can't do war if you can't build the things that you need to make war. You know what I'm saying? You can't throw sticks and stones. You need to be able to build things quickly. The speed with which the cities in China that are made for manufacturing are like unlike anything the West has. It is so impressive. Like you can say, hey, I want this, and they have every factory that makes every single component, and they can build in a second. They have that for the war machine as well. All the drones that are being made largely come from China. I think Turkey makes a lot of drones, and so does.
Wasn't that why the United States wants Mexico for the manufacturing?
Yeah, but this is the thing is like they're not moving with the speed. I think like China is hungry.
Yeah,
America's on its back foot. Yeah, what you're gonna get. The thing is, if the next step is like robotics, right? So like if you can build impressive robotic factories that can build things fast, then you don't have to rely on the people. But the people in America are like fat and lazy and stupid. They don't move as fast, and I think that permeates through the whole system. So I don't see America keeping up in any real way, and I think this is the beginning of that kind of end.
Well, China feels more like there's one person behind the wheel.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
And they have a whole party behind them. America feels like there's like 50 of us who have wheels, and we're all like, hey, motherfucker.
And then there's one wheel controlled by Netanyahu.
It's not even a wheel; it just has a remote. You know?
Yeah, it's a remote. Yeah.
It's from a beeper.
And he's like driving us off the bridge. So, well, I think that's the end. I gotta actually go run and do this show. Fuck, I'm so late. Okay, I gotta actually run really fast.
Cool. Do you have your hard drive or?
Yeah, I do.